Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Bava Kama daf Samach Gimel. We are going to begin in the middle of Samach Beis Mid Beis by the new famous Parak Maruba. Maruba midas tashlumi kefa midas tashlumi arba b'chamisha. The din of having to pay double for stealing is in certain ways more than when it comes to paying arba b'chamisha, the 4 and 5 times by geneva, by tvicha mechira. Shemidas tashmi kefel no heges ben b'davar sheish baruch chayim ben b'davar shein baruch chayim. When it comes to paying kefel, you have to pay double for anything you steal, alive or not. However, midas tashlumi arba b'chamisha no heges elo b'shor v'sel b'vad shenemer kis yigno of ish shor oseh u'tavacha machor v'goymer. The pasuk specifically says it has to be an animal, a shor chamor. If you have ganav number 1, and then ganav number 2 steals from ganav number 1, so the din is he does not pay kefel. So too, if ganav number 2 does tvicha mechira, he doesn't pay arba chamisha. We'll see why. Okay. So Rashi actually says, the dinim of kefil and arba chamisha is only you steal from the person, not from the house of a ganav. Says the Gemara. Now the midas tashlumi kefil no heges bein beganav bein betoyin tanis ganav. That when it comes to kefil, it doesn't mention this. That when it comes to kefil, it's naig not just when you steal it, but also by a shomer who says, "Oh, could I have my object back?" So he's toyin tanis ganav. He claims it was stolen, even if it actually wasn't. Says Rashi, ganaba v'ganvai. That's a ganav came and stole it. So in that situation, if he makes a shvua and it's turned out that he's lying, so he also has to pay kefil, not just the ganav, but also toyin tanis ganav. So that's when it comes to kefil. For some reason, our mission does not mention that distinction. Must be there is no difference. When it comes to a person who claims that it was stolen by a pikadon, something that was safekeeping by him, and it turns out he makes a shmon, he lies, and he says, Misham Tashmi Kefel, you actually do have to pay also Arba Chamisha for the same thing. So there is no nafgamina when it comes to that. So our missions are right because it doesn't make the distinction. So Mikatani Ein Bain, Maruba Katani Tanamashir. So it just says the language of Maruba. It doesn't say Ein Bain, there's no other difference. Ein Bain would be taka that. Now, of course, whenever you hear the words Tana Vashir, then usually that would mean, and this is what Taisus asked, my shir to high shir. So what would it actually be coming to include? There must be another nafkamina of Yesham Adishir Tainus Gana Aveda. So it's possible also when it comes to a person who has not a pikadon by him, but an aveda, lost object, and just turn to the ganav there as well. Ayin Taisus. Okay. So mina hanimili, how do we know this is true? What the Mishnah said, the Tanaban. The pasuk says, "I'll call over pesha," regarding any matter that was of negligence. Klal, al shor, al chamor, al sev, al salma. All these different items, the shore, the donkey, a sheep, or a garment, prat, specific. I'll call avena, anything that's lost, chaz v'kol, kol prat of klal. So it's a kol prat of klal. Yat tadon el kena prat. Ma prat maforish davar hamatalta v'gufo mamoin. So it's only something in which is metaltalin, and in itself has monetary value. So I've called davar hamatalta v'gufo mamoin. So what is that coming to exclude? Yatsu karkois, it's coming to exclude land, she'ena metaltalin, because not metaltalin. Yatsu avadim shehukshul karkais, and evidence we make a hekesh to karka. Yatsu shtar shavon pi shemetaltalin, even though star is metaltalin, in guf and mum, and in itself is not money. It represents an item. Yatsa also hektish re'ehu ksiv. The pasuk says only if it's from re'ehu, not this. So if you want to make this type of a connection of a kal prat klal, say even further. Ma prat maforish davar shenivlaso matamba b'magma. Only when it comes to stealing something in which its nevel is matam magma. I've called davar shenivlaso matam magma of oifei slow. So maybe not when it comes to birds, because a bird is not matam magma. It's nevela. So me matzas amid hachi. How could you come and tell me that it's coming to exclude birds? It says even a garment, and a garment is not alive. So obviously, an oaf would not be excluded either. So Amri Anan B'Balichayim Kamrinan. The whole point is, when we're dealing with animals, anything which is an animal, maybe that's the distinction. If it's not an animal, you're right. But when we're talking about Balichayim, maybe that's we can make that exclusion. The name of B'Balichayim Darshan of also Matam B'Magavamasa in. So again, maybe we can make that distinction and exclude birds as we continue to Samach Gimel Amud Aleph. Daha kol chad v'chad klal prat ba'api nafshi narshinan. Because since you have all these different pratim, it's not that it's just a klal prat or klal. Each one could be its own separate klal prat or klal, and therefore, because of that, since be'api nafshi narshinan lay avol slow, so maybe we could do exclude birds. So in Cain, if that's the case, that's how you would learn it. Then nichtav rachmana chad prata. Then we'll only mention one prat. So hay nichtav rachmana. Which prat would it mention? So ikos of rachmana shor havamina karvagam mizbech in shein karvagam mizbech lo. Maybe we think the din is dafka when it comes to when you're again. In this case, is only something which is brought on the mizbeach. Does this din apply? Does this parsha apply? I've all called it pasha. Something which is not shaykh to be brought on the mizbeach. No, that's why I mentioned chamor. Because of chamor, have a mina kaddish bebachar in shin kaddish bebachar lo. A chamor is kaddish immediately, even upon at birth. So Amri, so im kain nichtav rachmana shor v'chamor. Sel lamali. Why does it have to add the word se? What is that coming to include? It must be that the word says coming to include birds, that the din also applies to birds. The ema le'asui oifos taharat. Maybe it's only come to include kosher birds. That when it comes to swallowing the item, it's matama your begadim. Of ofos tameim the leis behu tuma. There's no din tuma the lo matama begadim abesa lo. So since there's no din tuma, so maybe the din doesn't apply to those types of birds. Says Rashi of ofos tameim lo the leis behu tuma. It's brought down in Chulin. Mishi isur mishum bal teichel nevelo treifa. Yatsa zeh shein isur mishum bal teichel nevelo treifa el mishum bal teichel tamei. Okay, so therefore it excludes it from being matamba beis abliya. So again, maybe we're going to exclude non-kosher birds. So kol riboihu. The fact that it says kol, that's including. B'chol heichad because of kol. Anytime it says the word kol over pasha, that's coming to include. So it's coming to include these types of birds. Is that true? But I'll show you. B'hagavi meiser. When it comes to the din of meiser, dechsev kol, it does say the word kol. And we end up making a drush of a klal prat like this. The sign, this is more in Erevin regarding Meiser Sheni. That you can give for redemption anything. Klal. Then it specifies certain types of things. Prat. And then it says uvakol asher tishachal nafshecha chazver kol. So the word kol, uvakol, is now a second klal. Klal prat klal yatadano kena prat. Ma prat maforish. Prima pri has to be prima pri. Rashi says that means vlad nevlad. Vigafen michartzen. For example, again, like an animal from its mother, or grapes come from grapevines. Lemuti mayim, excluding water, umelach, or salt. Ukaminu pitriais, or truffles and mushrooms. And asking Viduli karka, which excludes fish. Av kol prima geduli karka. So we see in this case, kol is not necessarily a riboy. We use it as a klal product klal. So Amri, you're right, but there's a difference between the words. Bekol klola, kol riboyhu. If you want to use the word bakol, like by meiser, that taka is part of klal product klal. However, here when it says kol, that's just a riboy, and therefore it's coming to include birds. Viboy sema. Alternatively, kol klolahu. Taka kol also over here is a klal. Umiu kol dehacha riboyhu. However, in this case, we're going to say that kol is a riboy. Why? Because michti, let's see. Ksimi kara klal product klal. We already find another klal product klal. Ksiv. Kiyitini shel rehu. When you give your friend something to watch, it's klal, anything. That says kesav kalim, specific items, which is a prat. Then lishmor, which sounds like really anything, so hadav kol. So if you want to tell me, oh, this is another klal prat, so hani prati gabi hech klal prat. I'll call the riboyhu, because otherwise you can just put all the other pratim, pour them all, and put them all together. So the fact that it doesn't do that, it's not really klal prat or klal, but rather in this case, specifically in this case, it's a riboy. Question 6. I'll call the pesha koil riboyhu. Ma'ishna the gabi kefel riboyhu v'ilu gabi meiser. So when it comes to paying kefel, we say includes even birds. However, when it comes to meiser, b'chol asher tam nafshecha darshin klal prat. So you said either there's a difference between kol and bakoil. That kol is a riboy, bakol is a klal. Or shani hachad yisachad adav klal prat nidoin lo israch dahavi lo mechtav hani klali gabi kra kama di'ari b'shvua. It already talks about it before. So there's a klal prat klal by kefil, and there's another one by ganav. One's by toin tanis ganav. So just put them all together over there. So hashdi amar kol riboy. So kol hani prati lamli. So why do you need all these pratim then? So if it's coming to include even birds, so then why do you need these other cases that in the pasuk? So chalim yuti karka. One is specifically telling you not land. Chalim yuti avadim. Chalim yuti shtaros. Salma, the garment, was muti davar shenim mesuyim. It's something which is a davar shenim mesuyim, as brought down in Bamatzia. Says Rashi Shinabalim Simin boy. There's no sign on it. There's no mark which designates it as unique. Shapatim kefil. If it's a davar shenim mesuyim, that's also put from kefil. Al kol aveda. What is it? Al kol aveda. Rav Chiya bar Rabba. Rav Chiya bar Rabba. Rav Yochanan. Hatoyin tainis ganev. If a person says that something was stolen, as we continue to Samach Gimel Mebeis ba'aveda, not by that it was bibikadoin, but you found a lost object, and you're holding on to it, and they say, oh, I heard you have a lost object of mine, and you're tayin tanas ganav ba'aveda, says Rashi, moitzi aveda shetoyin nignava, he meant it was stolen, l'achar shemitzasiha, after I found it, mishom tashemi kefil, shnemer, al kol aveda she yomar. So according to him, the din of paying kefil is not just by ganav, not just by toyin tanas ganav b'pikadoin, but also toyin tanas ganav ba'aveda. Tanan Hasan. Heichin, so we learn over there, Heichin pigdaini. Where's my pikadoin? Armali avad. It was lost. So he's toyin, this is a case of toyin tanas avad b'pikadoin. What we just said before is toyin tanas ganav ba'aveda. Here it's toyin tanas avad. You're claiming that it's lost when someone gave you this as pikadon. Mashbiachani swear be'omer amen, I will. But edom oiso shachu. And it turns out that Hitaka it wasn't lost. Instead, he used it himself. So Mashalom is a Karen. So the din is you only pay Karen, not Kefel. So this is an important din again, that when you're toyin tanas oivad, there's no din Kefel. It's toyin tanas ganav, yes, but not when you're toyin tanas ovad. Haidu al piatzmo, if you mit by yourself, mishalom karen b'chaimish oshim. Of course, you're not going to pay kefil, which is a kanas, but you will pay the principal. There's also a chiv of paying chaimish and the bring in oshim as well. Says Rashi, dechsiv Mishalmas a Karen, not kefel. El b'tainis ganav, as we said. If you're hoidem atzma, the pasuk says, "Omi kol asher yishbol el sheker." V'zehu oshim gzelois ve'enu ba el al hoidasim afiv. The only time you bring an oshim gzelois was again when you're really the one who stole it, is dafka in a situation by when you made a shvua. Okay, so hey, and you admitted to it. Heichen pikdoini al hoidas piv. Next case, he says heichen pikdoini amalo nignav. So this is not a case of tantanos avad where you don't pay kefil. Here's tantanos ganav. Mashbiach hani v'omer amein v'edem she ganvu. He actually stole it. Misham tashum kefil. Again, when it comes to tantanos ganav, as we see, just like geneva atzmo, you pay kefil. So to tantanos ganav, you pay kefil. Tantanos avad, you don't. So we nonetheless learn, but tantanos ganav, that when a person claims it was stolen, the mishalim tashmi kefil, you taka pay kefil. Of a batoin tennis avad, but if you claim it was lost, lo mishal tashmi kefil. If you feel toin tennis ganav b'shvua, even when it comes to toin tennis ganav with a shvua, hu de mishal tashmi kefil. Of a shlo b'shvua in a mishal tashmi kefil. Even if he denies it, it doesn't make any difference. But if you do not make a shvua, then you do not pay kefil. So the only time by toin tanas ganav they would pay kefil is if you would end up making a shvua. So again, if you say toin tanas avad, you never pay kefil. If you toin tanas ganav, it depends. It's only if you made a shvua. But if you didn't make a shvua, you don't pay kefil then either. So minah hanamili, how do we know all of this? The Tanurban. The pasuk says im yimatzi haganav. You find the ganav. So that's betoin tanas ganav hakas madaber. That pasuk is not talking about where he stole it, but it was really originally by him. And then when he said, "Can I please have my pikadim back?" he claims that it was stolen, and that's what the pasuk is talking about. So ato aimer b'toin tanas ganav, oinu b'ganav atzmo. Maybe the pasuk of mimatzei ganav is talking about where the someone who actually stole it. When the pasuk says im lo yimatzei ganav, that's b'toin tanas ganav hakas medaber. In other words, both psukim are toin tanas ganav. The case of imi matzeh ganav and also imloi matzeh ganav, it's the same case of toin tanas ganav, that it was a pikadon by you didn't steal it originally, but then you lied and you end up saying it was stolen. So in that case, again, you'll make a shvua, and then if you're found to have said a shvua sheker, you pay kefil. Tani idach imi matzeh ganav beganav atzma kas madaber. That's actually talking about the actual stealing. So. How do we know? Because so how many it makes sense that the pasuk, one pasuk is about a ganav, one's about toin tanas ganav. Even though the first man yomer says that both psukim are talking about toin tanas ganav. So how do we know ganav itself? We'll have to see. The kuli almamia is. So my mashma. Interesting, there's a pasuk of imi matzeh ganav, so we don't know if that's geneva mamish or toin tanas ganav. However, when we're dealing with the pasuk of imuloi matzeh ganav, everyone says that's a case of toin tanas ganav. Why? So Rabbi, this is how you read the pasuk. Imu yimatzeh kamash amar. If you don't find it the way it was, ela shehu atzmo ganvo, he himself stole it, yishom shnayim, then you pay double. So therefore, that's im lo yimatzeh. In other words, it was not found the way it was supposed to be found, which is a case of toin tanas ganav. So uminalan de b'shvu. How do we know that when it comes to toin tanas ganav, you're only chayav to pay kefil in the event that a person made a shvu? Decide. That pasuk says, "V'nikra bal habayis el Elokim," that the bal habayis goes to the courts. L'shvua, he goes to have to make a shvua, because he's claiming that it was stolen, this object that he was holding on to as watching it for him. So ato omer l'shvueno el ladin, maybe it just means going to court. So never shlich hashad l'mata, never shlich hashad l'mala. Mala hol l'shvua, avkan l'shvua. So it says this in two different places. Says Rashi, b'shomer sacher, shvuas Hashem tia ben shinehim imo sholach. So by a shomer sachar, someone who is a paid watchman, as we'll see in the third parak in Bava Metzia, the din is, depending on what his taina is, there's a chiyuv shvua. Okay, so just like over there, it's talking about a shvua, so too when it says v'nikra bal bayis elokim, lo shalach yadam melechus reihu, etc. So in that case, you have to pay kefil only because there is a shvua. So that's the drasha. So bishul madir mechad beganav mechad b'toin tanis ganav. I can understand how to accept trey kroy. That's why you have two psukim talking about two different things. El madir metivai b'toin tanis ganav trey kroy lomali. I understand why need two psukim. Im lo yimatzei ganav. Fine, everyone holds that's toin tanis ganav. But why would you think that the other pasuk of im yimatzei ganav is also talking about toin tanis ganav? Why do you need two psukim to tell us the same thing? That there's the din kefil. Samri chad lemute tanas avad. One of them is coming to exclude, as we said, toin tanas avad. Your only chayv is toin tanas ganav. The other one is coming to tell you it's dafka toin tanas ganav, lafuke toin tanas avad. If you claim that it was lost, then you do not pay kefil. You don't have an extra pasuk. How does he know that if a person claims that the object was lost, that he doesn't pay kefil? The answer is miganav ha-ganav, because the extra hay. Umadi emer tevayu b'toin tanas ganav v'limuti le toin tanas avad ganav ha-ganav madarsh. So the Gemara elsewhere just says v'idach, right? But instead it goes into a lengthy discussion, basically breaking it down that what do you do with extra hay? So who was that? When it comes to the din, as we saw already on the previous Almud, the beginning of this parak, that a person is toin tanas ganav by an object that is safekeeping misham tashum kefil. Okay, but the chiddush was that even tavach hamacham mishalom tashum arba b'chamisha. There's even the din arba b'chamisha. So the ganav ha-ganav, and maybe you can use it as a play on the word, the hay is like chamisha. So there's a din of a toin tanas ganav also has to pay dal b'hay. That the two psukim are for two different dinim. One is for someone who stole, one is for toin tanas ganav. The hay ganav, afkal muti tanas avad, and the hay is coming to exclude toin tanas avad. And if you claim it was lost, then the din is that you don't pay kefil. So the Rabbi Barabba Manole, which again not everyone necessarily holds like him, but how would apparently you don't disagree that you would also have to buy toin tanas ganav, have to pay dal b'hay. So amalach hakeshahu ve'in mashivin al hakesha. This is a hekesh, and you don't ask questions on a hekesh. Okay. Why not? Why can't we ask a hekesh? Okay. Filkin Taisus. There's even a din Okay, Ayin Taisus. Now Bishul, let's go back. Now Bishul Mamadi Omer Chad Beganav Chad B'Toin Tanas Ganav Shaper. They're two different psukim, and it makes sense. So now you know the din of toin tanas ganav. You know the din of about Ganev itself. You know a pasuk that says if you steal, just straight up, you pay kefil. How does he know, Taka, that if you steal, you have to pay kefil? Just learn how to pashut, learn how to kavachaymer. That madach, if the thing was in your hands beheter, but nonetheless it's shaykh by toin tanas ganav, you'll end up having to pay kefil. So if you stole it be'isser, certainly should have to pay kefil. Mara says you can't do that because dail avom and adin leos kanadin. If you would learn out from toin tanas ganav, you only pay kefil dafka if you made a shvua. When it comes to ganeva, we know the din is you pay kefil even though you don't make a shvua. As soon as you're found to be the guilty party of having stolen the object, you're chayav kefil even without a shvua. But therefore, you can't learn it out from the kavachayim. Okay, fine, you can learn out there's a din kefil, but you would think maybe you have to make a shvua, that's not true. So we need another source. So nachlema the Tanad Bechizkiah. The Tanad Bechizkiah, he learns like this: Yermer shor geneva. Just say the word shor and just say the word geneva. V'akol b'chlal, and then everything could be included in that. Why? Because ilu kacha iso omer ma pramaforish karvagam mizbeach. So what do we say? A shor is something which is on the mizbeach. Av kol karv v'gam mizbeach. So Mayish, what would that come into include? Anything that's on the Mizbeach, which would also include a set, because a set is something that could be also brought on the Mizbeach. So therefore, you don't really need the word seh, because you already learn that from the word shor, as we continue Samach Dal Manalf. Keshu Omer seh, Hari seh Omer. Hamna Memukayim Geneva. So what? How do we understand this? Well, Ralbos Kol Dover comes to include everything. Yomer shor seh Geneva. So therefore, we have the word seh to include everything. So okay, fine. So now that's why we have seh. So Yomer shor seh Geneva v'kol b'chlal. Il kacha yisol imer ma pram beforish davar ha-kadosh b'b'chayra. When it comes to these things, it's something which is kadosh b'b'chara. I've called davar ha-kadosh b'b'chayra. Ma yishal lehevi chamor. That would include a donkey. So therefore, kashu aimer chamor hari chamor amor. Why does it say that? Hamanim emakaim genevel rabos kol davar. It's coming to include anything. So Yomer shor v'chamor seh v'genevel v'kol b'chlal ilu kacha yisol imer ma pram beforish bali chayim av kol bali chayim. Anything that's alive. Kishomer Chaim, Pastor already says Chaim. So Hari Chaim Omer, Hamanim Chaim Genevel, Rabos Kol Davar. It's coming to include all things. Okay. So this Gemara is going to continue, but that's a good place to stop. Okay. Question 7. You can't, because we would say so you would think you'd have to make a shvua. TA 21. Elu ofos mistaber yosel or rabos miseh. Ofos tameim or ofos tahar madua. Which birds would we say are closer to a seh? Obviously, the answer is Ophos Taharim. TA 21. Sheish Lehem Tuma, Bebeis Abliya, Mashkein Tameim, in Lehem Tuma Klal, will have a Dumid a seh. So if you want to compare it to a seh, you would think it would be maybe only Ophos Taharim, as it says over here, Dumid a seh, the Matamba Begadim, Bebeis Abliya. Avol oifos tameim, the leisbu tuma, the lomatama b'gan beis abliya, lo. That was TA 21. Okay, TB 22. Lama nisracha b'tayra parshas ganav l'sham kefil v'yalfin kabacham return to ganav. Same thing because of dial level. Minadilios kanadai not kan.